It is December 18, 2025, and we have a headline that is just ripping across the defense analysis world.
Yeah.
It's a big one. Russian troops captured after crushing defeat.
And if you rely on this kind of timely, in-depth analysis, please take a moment and show your support. Subscribe to Defense Reports. It's your go-to source.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Aria.
And in this latest Deep Dive by Defense Report, we're giving you a sharp, no-nonsense breakdown of the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today, we're going to cover some truly stunning news.
We really are. We're talking about Ukrainian forces successfully executing a massive counter-encirclement,
Which resulted in the destruction of an entire Russian regiment near Lyman.
and at the same time, it trapped hundreds of Russian soldiers inside a key railway hub just a bit further north.
So for this deep dive, our mission is to analyze these tactical reversals, specifically in the Lyman and Kupyansk sectors.
And we're going to contrast them directly with this pervasive Russian propaganda of, inevitable victory. We're showing how battlefield facts are just exposing the Kremlin's core lies.
And we have two massive cliffhangers for you. First, what kind of operational failures led Russian soldiers to use an underground gas pipeline for their logistics?
And second, how is Ukraine's resilience, its toughness on the front line, actually strengthening its hand in these really critical diplomatic negotiations?
Okay, so to get into this, you have to start with the center of Russia's cognitive warfare campaign, right? Which is Kupyansk.
Exactly. This strategically vital city in the Kharkiv region has become, it's become the testing ground for Russia's ability to just maintain a completely fabricated reality.
Let's unpack that. The propaganda versus the reality. President Putin has been saying over and over that the invasion is going according to plan.
And those claims are designed to do two things. First, obviously, bolster domestic support. But second, and this is key, it's to get support from international leaders, like former U.S. President Donald Trump, for what they call a Kremlin-friendly peace.
So the message is basically, Russia is winning, so why keep helping Ukraine fight?
The audacity of the lie is what's really fascinating here. I mean, the Russian defense minister, Belousov, he repeatedly bragged that Kupyansk was seized.
Right, practically in our hands, I think was the...
Yeah, and that was as recent as December 17th. They were claiming a victory that it hadn't happened.
And the way that lie was exposed was, well, it was a masterclass in wartime messaging.
Absolutely. Ukrainian President Zelensky traveled personally to Kupyansk on December 12th.
And he didn't just visit. He posted a selfie video right from the city's entrance. The message was so clear, to show the world that Putin is lying.
He even said that exposing every Russian falsehood is how truth restores justice. That image it instantly cut through months of disinformation.
But that visual message, that was only possible because of some really dedicated, brutal work on the ground.
Oh, for sure. Ukrainian forces had been in a multi-week counterattack. They liberated key northern districts, the surrounding forests, and crucially, they broke through to the Oskol River.
And why was that Oskol River breakthrough so critical?
Because it's all about logistics. That single action cut the Russian ground lines of communication, their GLOCs.
So their supply lines, the roads, the rail, everything needed to feed, fuel, and rearm the troops.
Exactly. And when those are severed, the fighting force quickly becomes isolated.
Which led to the encirclement.
The complete, effective encirclement of roughly 100 to 200 Russian personnel in the city by December 12th.
And we have confirmation on the liberated territory too, right? Kindrashivka, Redkivka, and Myrov.
Yeah, all in that critical area northwest of the railway hub. It confirms the depth of the Ukrainian advance and, the success of the whole maneuver.
It's a huge sign. It shows that even under this relentless pressure, Ukrainian units can still pull off coordinated offensive operations.
Which brings us to the Lyman front. And this is where the stakes and the damage to Russian forces were even higher.
Okay, so this is where the strategic scale of this defeat really comes into focus. Reports confirmed on December 18th that joint assault operations by the DIU, the Defense Intelligence of Ukraine,
right, working with the Third Corps,
they successfully led to the destruction of an entire Russian regiment.
And let's be clear what a regiment is. We're talking typically several thousand troops, plus all their mechanized and artillery support. To destroy a unit of that size in one operation, it's a catastrophic loss of combat power for Russia.
So this action leveled the front line.
Completely. It drastically improves Ukraine's tactical position and, maybe most importantly, resulted in the capture of a substantial number of occupiers.
And that kind of success, well, it forces us to look at the sheer desperation in the Russian response. After their big mechanized assaults failed, they shifted.
Dramatically. To these small, stealthy infiltration teams, what sources are calling barefoot infantry, and tactics that are just, they're operationally bankrupt.
Which brings us to the pipeline. This is the most damning logistical evidence I think I've ever seen.
It's unbelievable. Russian forces unable to use normal supply routes. They tried to reinforce and resupply their trapped guys in Kupyansk by using an abandoned underground gas pipeline.
A gas pipeline. They were treating it as a covert lifeline.
It speaks to a total logistical collapse on the ground. Standard military doctrine is just, it's out the window.
They're sacrificing speed, safety, everything for just a tiny bit of covertness.
And think about it. Troops in a confined, dangerous space, probably with gas residue, carrying supplies, unable to move heavy weapons.
And the Ukrainians figured it out.
They figured it out fast. They blocked the pipeline, and they put every single exit point under fire control.
So now that encircled group, the 100 to 200 men, they're being supplied only by small UAVs.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Which is a testament to ingenuity, I guess, but the carrying capacity is tiny compared to what they need. It's unsustainable, and every drone flight just gives away their position.
We also have to touch on the attempts to infiltrate places like Suliai using deception, wearing civilian clothes.
Yeah. And that specific act, using civilian status for a tactical advantage, that's the definition of perfidy. It's a serious war crime under the Geneva Convention.
So when we see masquerade warfare, it just underscores this systemic disregard for the laws of war.
It's evidence of a willingness to violate anything for short-term gains.
And these tactical failures, the high costs, they feed directly into the bigger picture. The war of attrition and the Kremlin's cognitive warfare campaign.
Let's look at the numbers because they are staggering. Despite Russia holding the initiative on paper, their advances are at a foot pace.
A glacial pace.
Even where they concentrate massive force, progress is minimal. To put it in perspective, throughout all of 2025, sources estimate Russia only managed to secure about 0.77% of Ukrainian territory.
And the cost for that tiny gain it's catastrophic. As of December 18, 2025, total Russian personnel losses are estimated at roughly 11,193,300.
With over 950 of those in just a single 24-hour period.
It's easy to hear those numbers as just statistics, but that's the size of a major European city's population killed, wounded, or captured.
And critically, the attrition rate is fundamentally unsustainable. Independent analysis shows Russia's monthly average casualties, around 34,600, are higher than their monthly recruitment rate, which is about 32,800.
So they're consistently bleeding, faster than they can regenerate forces.
That's the core military problem for them. Now, politically, they rely on this domestic tolerance for high casualties, but militarily, the costs are showing up everywhere.
Especially in the equipment degradation.
Exactly. The high-value losses just in the 48 hours leading up to December 18th. We're talking 60 artillery systems and nearly 500 tactical UAVs.
Yeah, volume just illustrates this continuous hollowing out of their mechanized capabilities.
Which forces them back to low-tech, high-risk solutions like, the pipeline.
And this is where the cognitive warfare really kicks in. The Kremlin uses these inflated claims, like saying they control Siversk or Pokrovsk when fighting is still raging.
It's all part of this dedicated effort to falsely portray the Ukrainian frontline as collapsing.
The goal being to erode Western support by making the whole conflict seem futile.
Yes, but there's a third, more dangerous part. This institutional dishonesty is feeding back into their own leadership. Putin is reportedly being briefed on victories that haven't actually happened.
Which leads directly to strategic miscalculation.
And the tactical rigidity we saw in Lyman, which resulted in those massive, completely unnecessary losses.
The diplomatic implications of all this battlefield pressure are just huge. We know about the recent high-level meetings in Berlin and Miami, focused on peace terms and NATO-like security guarantees for Ukraine.
And Russia's response to these diplomatic moves?
Total rejection.
Explicit rejection. Kremlin officials insist they will not compromise in any form on the 5 illegally annexed Ukrainian regions.
And the deputy foreign minister even stated that the purpose of the war is for Ukrainians to find out they belong in Russia.
Which confirms this maximalist long-term goal. It goes way beyond territory. It's about the erasure of Ukrainian identity.
They even rejected the idea of a Christmas truce. It's undeniable. Negotiations won't happen unless Russia is forced to the table by military pressure.
And that pressure is effective on the front line, but we have to shift our focus now to the strategic threats Ukraine is facing in its rear. These attacks are arguably the Kremlin's second front.
They're continuing their systematic war on the energy grid, Between October and December 2025, they launched 8 massive combined missile and drone strikes.
And the stated goal is chilling. It's to degrade Ukraine's energy infrastructure by splitting the entire power grid in half, creating a west-east divide.
Sources say eastern Ukraine and Kiev are at the brink of a complete blackout.
And these strikes are highly systematic. They happen regularly every 7 to 10 days, and they're timed specifically to hit infrastructure that is undergoing repairs from the previous strike.
Maximizing the long-term damage.
Exactly. It maximizes the energy deficits and the economic pain.
Beyond the grid, they're escalating their targeting of logistics lines in Odessa Oblast, which just highlights Ukraine's urgent, desperate need for air defense to protect the rear.
We've seen confirmed strikes on critical supply bottlenecks. For instance, long-range drones and glide bombs hit the bridge on the P-70 highway in Zatoka.
And the Odessa Railway Bridge over the Sarata River. Both are crucial choke points for moving supplies and exports.
And we can't ignore the heightened threat from occupied Transnistria, which is only 80 kilometers from Odessa.
Russia is reportedly boosting its presence there, setting up drone production and training centers.
Which significantly increases the risk of low-cost drone strikes, maybe even small infiltration missions against Odessa Oblast. It forces Ukraine to divert already precious air defense assets away from the front lines.
So what does this all mean for you? The destruction of that regiment in Lyman, the encirclement in Kupyansk. These are undeniable battlefield facts, and they fundamentally undercut the Kremlin's narrative of inevitability.
These victories really demonstrate the sustained resilience and tactical smarts of Ukrainian forces. It's forcing Moscow to rely on these desperate, high-cost tactics, like using a gas pipeline for logistics.
And these hard-won successes on the battlefield, they translate directly into strong diplomatic leverage. A strong position on the front allows for strong positions in negotiations.
It reduces the incentive for Western partners to push for some kind of premature, unfavorable peace deal.
Which brings us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. The security agreements being discussed with the US and Europe, these NATO-like guarantees, are absolutely crucial for stabilizing Ukraine in 2026.
But given the Kremlin's explicit rejection of those guarantees and its commitment to these maximalist war goals, how must Europe and the US adjust their strategy?
How do they ensure Ukraine gets the integrated air defense it needs to protect its grid and its rear area logistics from Russia's escalating systematic attacks?
It's become very clear that defending the rear is now just as critical as holding the front line, especially if Ukraine hopes to maintain its economic viability through another brutal winter.
You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex and Arya, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
It's 8. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports. We'll catch you next time.